Graham Baker, YouTuber extraordinaire, Boring Gear Reviews. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Awesome. Let me ask you this. What inspired you to start Boring Gear Reviews?
I guess it was around like 2015 or so. I recently divorced. I was living by myself. I was never really that into pedals, and then I just kind of started getting into it. Started watching tons of YouTubers doing demos, and I was like getting really into pedals, so I started buying a lot of pedals. And I kept writing all of this stuff, but not really having like a place for it. And then after like a couple of years of doing that, I just figured like, well, fuck it. Like I may as well put it out in some capacity. If it's not a record, I don't want to just, cause I have like, I don't know, 400 gigs of just like parts, riffs. And I just play and record it, and then I just stick it somewhere. And it seemed kind of stupid and wasteful. So I was like, hey, it might be fun to do that. And that was basically it. And then like the dream was like, oh, maybe I'll get sent a pedal one day. And that was pretty cool.
I would say, Graham, one of the distinctions between your channel and some of the others is your speaking style and your authoritative view and how you present yourself on camera. Do you have a background in this type of thing?
Thank you. That's super nice. Yeah, so I'm a teacher. I've been teaching martial arts for 25 years. So, you know, every day, hours and hours a day, I'm talking to people, and I do seminars. I've done them, you know, all over the state and country. I've taught in other countries. I was in finance for a bit, and I would do seminars there too. So I think I just have spent a lot of years working out the nervousness, getting rid of uhs and ums and stuff like. And I think what you said, like the authoritative stuff. I think when you eliminate ers and ums, it sounds more. I don't necessarily feel that way when I'm speaking, but like I think it just comes off that way when you cut that stuff out.
It's really quite a distinctive factor that you have compared to other channels I have known.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do like that. Like I want to communicate well, especially if I'm talking about someone's, you know, hard-earned pedal or amp or guitar that they made. I want to try to articulate in a way that's like exciting or interesting.
Graham, your focus for BGR comes from more like a practicality standpoint as opposed to a hype. Is that intentional?
I think so. Like I don't, my intention is to show off the pedal in a really good light. And then I think I try to make my playing suit that. I want people to like what I'm doing and think I'm playing cool stuff, but I try to put the pedal first and how I would use it in a recording context or a band or something like that.
How did you arrive at your process when reviewing gear?
I think there's a lot of trial and error. I think if you look at my first videos, I almost went with a gimmick of like speaking very boring and like deadpan. Like if you watch that first video, the Model FET one, I say it like, welcome to Boring Gear Reviews. Like I almost went that route. And then I realized I didn't want to do that. I'm not a fan of too many gimmicks or shtick. So then it started to be, okay, I'm showing settings that have a wide range of the pedal. And I started to take too much time with that. So, okay, I'm going to whittle it down to 3 or 4. So that was part of the process. And then it was also like, how do I show the cool things of the pedal without just doing guitar solos? Because that doesn't, for me, that isn't interesting. So, okay, I want to show it's going to be riff based. I might do some guitar solos here and there, but like it's going to be riff based. So that was like the other big piece of it. As far as like how I determine the settings, I don't know if this is too much behind the curtain, but like sometimes when I'm playing a pedal, what you're seeing on the video is the first time I've played the pedal. Not all the time, and it's purely just a scheduling issue. I work like 14-hour days, and then so sometimes I'm recording these things at like midnight or 2 in the morning, and I don't have a lot of time, you know? So I'll spend an hour with a pedal, and what you're seeing is like, it's almost real time.
Wow.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I hope nobody's offended by that.
Solid answer.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, when you sit down with a new piece of gear, pedal, amp, guitar, do you have like an inner dialogue on how you're going to talk about this?
I'm in my head all the time. So the biggest thing, it's a constant, is like, this has to be good. Like you need to do a good job. This person sent you this thing that they spent months or years making, and they shipped it to you and paid for the parts and did the whole thing. So I want it to be really good. Once I'm playing, and I think this might come across sometimes because sometimes I'm sloppy. I'm just not a technical player, but like I don't know anything about guitar. Nothing at all. Like I'm self-taught. I literally don't know a fucking thing. I know like maybe 6 chord names. I don't know any scales. So my brain kind of shuts off, and I'm more like intuiting feel and sound, and that's kind of it's just chaos. I have no idea what's going on.
Well said.
Thank you.
Chaos.
And there's nothing wrong. Like, there are some players who are extremely technical, and I enjoy listening to them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having all that. Not, there's a downside to it. Like, I don't have any knowledge of the guitar other than what I feel and repetition and experience or whatever. But like, so when I write something, there's no rules, but because I don't know like the next logical step, it might take me longer to find the next piece that I want. Or somebody who knows theory or really knows it would get to that point much faster, but they might be boxed in by the laws of the things they learn. So it is this weird kind of ebb and flow, but my favorite guitar players, or just musicians in general, are ones that, with or without technical knowledge, they just feel, and then that's what you're hearing. I try not to be self-serving when I'm playing or doing anything really, but that's something I always keep in mind. I got it more from like Bill Frisell, who's my favorite guitar player, and then but also Robert Smith, of like this leaving space for notes to breathe and the impact of timing. And like you said, like the note might sound fine in the octave, but it might sound better way up the neck on the same string or whatever it is.
My juxtapose as far as guitar players that I really find that I'm enamored with forever is Johnny Marr from the Smiths and Mike Scheidt from Yob. Completely different.
Totally.
Both are primarily rhythm players, but in completely different genres. Johnny Marr's whole approach to the Smiths were no power chords and no solos.
Yeah.
So when you have those two constraints yourself, how do we make this sound interesting?
That's a big part of what I keep in mind with the channel, with Boring Gear Reviews, is like really limit, every once in a while I'll do power chords, but like really small amount of power chords, really small amount of lead work for the same reason.
Yeah. There's something to be said with that.
Yeah.
And even in heavy music, like, I don't know, I'm similar with you. I know like maybe 2 chord shapes.
Yeah.
Official chord shapes,
right.
But I hunt the sounds out. So I got something in my hand. It might be in a book somewhere, but it sounds right in my head where it needs to be, and that's the basis of what I go with. It's it's almost like a crutch and an obstacle if you have too much knowledge. At least in my viewing, probably from your, what it sounds like with you as well. It impedes to your creativity almost because it's a fallback.
Yeah.
You want to go back to what you learned. You spend a lot of time learning it and practicing it, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just personally for me and you, it just sounds like that's not our path.
I think with all things, the purpose is, it doesn't matter what you're learning. The purpose is you're shown a ton of structure, and you need that in the beginning. You need it. It's important. And then at a certain point, you need to start shedding as much of that as possible to find your voice. And I think for guitar players, any musicians, if you have structure in the beginning and then let it go, like everything, all teaching is, or all learning rather, is absolutes and then abstracts. Everything is always that way. Like you have to have that. Yeah. And the faster you get to abstracts is great, but like you have to start with those absolutes.
Have you ever had a change of heart from your initial impression of a piece of gear?
Totally. Like recently too, I actually had that with a piece of gear, like a pedal that I was so excited for. I don't know if you're familiar with Basement Lyle. He does a YouTube channel. He does like synths, plays pedals through synths. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Anyway, we let each other borrow some pedals. He shipped me some, I shipped him some. And one of the ones I wanted from him was the Electronic Audio Experiment's Hypersleep, like a out of production reverb. Super excited. I initially plugged it in and I was like, I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. And I put it away for like weeks. And it was sitting on my desk and I would just look at it and I had all this stress of like, oh man, he needs these pedals back at some point. I gotta give them back. And then I plugged it back in and I was obsessed. For whatever reason, my brain needed time to catch up, or my fingers did, or whatever. But then it really clicked, and I was like, "Oh, I love this reverb." Because I even messaged him, and I was like, "I don't get it. I don't get it." And then I spent more time with it, and I was like, "I love this thing." So yeah, it definitely does happen for sure.
Grahm, I don't think I've ever come across a bad review on your channel. Do you ever get any pushback from companies that send you a pedal?
Well, thank you. From companies, not so much. Well, I don't want to go too into it, but I did a review for a pedal, and it's a good review. I fucking stand by it. But he did email me, and he was like, "Oh, that was cool. Do you think we could do another one?" And I was like, "Well," but I do every once in a while get comments that are negative, which is hilarious to me. Usually, like if somebody says, I'll just send a clip, like a link to that clip of that Ricky Gervais bit where he's like, you ever heard it, where he talked about someone finding an advertisement for guitar lessons and they take it and they're like, well, I don't fucking want guitar lessons. And then they go home and they call the number and the guy picks up hello and he goes, are you offering guitar lessons? Yeah, I don't fucking want guitar lessons. You know, that is funny to me. But yeah, from companies, usually everybody is very, very nice. And even this one person was nice. He was just, I guess he expected something different.
Dude, being nice is underrated.
Dude, I agree. Like, being nice is the coolest shit in the world. And I'm always stunned that people are not nice.
What's your stance on the idea that tone is in the hands, not in the gear?
Yes. You know, people have a style. And I think part of the thing we attribute to tone is like the notes you play, your rhythm and cadence in playing, and definitely your pick attack and how you fret the strings and all that stuff. Tone is a big part of the amp, the pedal, the pickups in particular of the guitar. Like it's both. You know, I might play through your setup and sound like me, and then you're going to sound like you. But I think to a casual listener, we're going to sound the same.
Are we in the golden age of gear, or do you think we've reached oversaturation?
We're 100% in the golden age of gear. There's never been a better time to be into pedals, to be into guitars. When I started playing guitars was 1994. I had a Squier Strat. Squier was awful at the time. Now, basically the same price. It's not, Squier hasn't really gone up that much, and they're excellent guitars. Like, so a beginner can have a great guitar to start with. Pedals, it was nothing, you know, Boss makes great pedals. But it was basically just Boss, DoD, Digitech. That was it. And now there's thousands of brands all over the world with their perspective and their take and their unique flavor of sound and aesthetic. So the oversaturation, I think, is a personal view of what's going on. Like you can choose how much you want to take or not, intake or not. So I don't see anything negative about it. I think the people should keep making stuff, and some companies will continue, some will fall. But like, if that person made one pedal for a year and then stopped making it and it fulfilled them for a year, then it's worth it. And oversaturation shouldn't be a part of it at all.
What's one piece of gear that everyone is sleeping on but should be using?
Better guitar picks, for sure. I have another answer too, but like, I first started, I'm given the Fender medium, root beer colored guitar picks, and that's what I used for a little while. And then, I don't know, 5 years into playing, I switched to these like 0.7 millimeter, or maybe there was 1 millimeter, and they had like a little bit of texture so they didn't fall out. And then last year I found these Bog Street picks that have a hole in the middle so your fingers connect. It really changed the way I played guitar. So I think people overlook guitar picks. That's one. You should do some work to find a guitar pick that suits you. And then other than that, there's a pedal from 29 Pedals called the Una. It's become pretty popular, but it's still, fairly underground. And I think people avoid it because they may not know what it does. And then also it doesn't produce an effect. But what it does is strengthen your input and output signal and it sweetens your tone. So it's like, for example, you can kind of think of it like if you had a blanket over your speaker and then you turn on the unit, it sounds like you took the blanket off. And it is doing some EQ shaping. That's essentially what's going on. But I think that is a really slept on, like, start of the chain EQ, I think is really, really important. You can cut off low end, like if you notice, oh, my tone's really like woofy or flubby. You can, before it hits any pedals, cut off, not just with the unit, with any EQ pedal, you can cut off some low end or boost some mids or roll off some highs so it's not so harsh or shrill. I think it's a really like useful tool for everybody, for sure.
There's some gear that people use, and I think that there's some advantages to it, but I think there's some misconceptions in how they're using it. Just for example, rig modulators, compressors sometimes get a bad name.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I agree. I didn't understand them, you know, especially, I'll say one of the coolest things, I think the coolest thing about doing this channel has been community, like meeting all these cool people and making friends and finding common ground and stuff. But it's been exposing myself to pedals I never would have touched before. And ring modulators in particular, I would have never, I'd be like, fuck that, I'm not using that. What is it, the old telephone sound or what? I'm never using that. And then I got sent a ring modulator. And so it was a challenge of like, well, how do I make this sound like cool and like me and how I'd use it? And I was blown away and I kind of fell in love with it. So I think we always have a perception of what something sounds like, and then maybe more detrimental, we have a perception of what we're supposed to sound like, and we're kind of placing these limits. So things like ring modulators, I think, are really important to expanding your creative horizons or boundaries. That for me, at least, I had that result.
Are there any creators or channels that inspire you?
So many. I was inspired to start the channel because of other demo artists and YouTube creators. So like Stefan from the Pedal Zone is huge. Obviously, like, you know, Andy is amazing. And they're like, you know, more contemporary people like, you know, Emily and Russ are great, and they're super fun and nice, and they've always been very cool and supportive of me too. Basement Lyle, who I mentioned before, outstanding. There's Zach from Fuzz Drones. There's what is it? Sound Isles. There's a bunch of pedals, a pair of pandas. There's like, please forgive me for anybody I didn't name. There's so many, and I've been hitting the head a lot, so just bear with me. You know, I love the stuff that Jamie's doing at Harsh Tones and like Alex at Moss Distro, like that 90s, like Jesus lizardy stuff I love so fucking much. You know, there's just so many awesome creators. So I think like once you start getting into demo artists and pedal people and just gear people on YouTube, there's like a kind of like this endless well of really awesome creativity out there.
Have you ever felt burnt out?
Yeah. It's daunting always having a deadline ahead of you. It can feel really exhausting. I try to keep it in perspective. I'm just playing guitar. You know, it's not, I want to get these things out, and this is like a business for me. So I do have a responsibility to do that. And sometimes I don't necessarily feel creative, and I always go back to, I don't know if you ever, there's this really amazing book by this guy, Stephen Pressfield, and it's called The War of Art. And basically what he's talking about is resistance, like not wanting or not following through with the work because it's not going to be perfect right away. And that idea of like, well, I'm going to do something else. You know, I need to do a demo, but, you know, I better change the locks on my door. That's got to happen right away. And that's all resistance. And I think when we start to feel that burnout, some of that is fear and insecurity and imposter syndrome, and that idea that like, if I start doing the thing that I'm supposed to do, that I love to do, what if it sucks? What if I suck? What if everybody finds out I suck? And I don't want to do that. It hurts. It's scary. It's painful. And so I try to work on that aspect of it and not dwell too much on, you know, the minutia of it, like the process of it, and go like, okay, well, I love playing guitar. I love pedals and gear and all this stuff, and these people are sending me, and how cool is that? So I just try to like pump myself up about how fun this is, which it is. And I find that once you start, I might not like what I'm playing right away, and I just keep pushing through it, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be. And that really helps burnout. I feel burnout is more anxiety and like anticipatory anxiety than it is a real thing.
Gray House, passion project, how did that come about?
I hadn't been making music for a really long time. I've had bands in the past and put out records, and then I was married and just wasn't making any music. It just wasn't doable in that environment. And then when I got divorced, I was like, I feel like I can make music again. So I did those 2 records. There's a full length and then an EP I put out. I recorded a week after I released that. And honestly, those 2 records were more so me trying to remember how to be a musician again. So it was like, lyrically, it's all like, just like therapy work. Like I was just really dealing with all that heavy shit. And musically, I was trying to remember how to be a musician. I didn't feel like a musician. Super heavy into martial arts, my own training at that point, and all of my time and energy was, well, how do I hurt people better? That was like everything I was thinking about. And then when I stopped wanting to think like that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a musician too. I'm an artist. I forgot that I was like an artist. So those records are me kind of figuring out how to do that again. And there's some pluses and minuses on those records. But now I feel because of the channel, so I've been putting out, I don't know, 20 minutes of improvised music a week for 2 years now. So I really feel like, oh, I can write a fucking record again. Like I can really make some music. And now I just have no time to do that. But yeah, so the origin was just remembering how to be a musician and kind of, it was a painful process doing those records, but like kind of pushing through that so I could get to hopefully something better on the other end.
Any dream collaborators or influences that you'd love to work with?
Yeah, I think so. I've been working by myself for so long that I do feel a little anxiety about even being approached in that capacity or approaching somebody in that capacity. Honestly, like there's just such a huge community of awesome musicians out there doing this shit. I would love to work with any of them, truly.
Are there any rules or philosophies that you have about making music, or do you prefer to approach it with no rules attitude?
I think no rules is good. However, I think all creative people need a certain amount of boundaries. I firmly believe that without any boundaries, you flounder, you fuck around. Constraints are really good for making something that is great. When you have a week to make a record, you're gonna work so hard in that week to make this record good. If you go like, whatever, I could finish it in a year, in 5 years, you'll probably never finish it, and it's gonna be all over the place. So I think some constraints are good. As far as, like, for example, like what if I make a record, I do have a rule that if I question whether or not a song should be on the record, I just take it off. Like if I don't love it, and I've broken that rule, and I'm always upset about it. So that's a rule. But as far as like writing and stuff, none. I don't care. Like maybe you'll do a part 1 time and then another part 5 times. Like I don't care about the time signatures. No rules as for sound, no rules for where you're going with a song or with a record. But I think overall you need some constraints in the process itself.
Do you ever struggle with overworking an idea for a song?
I think yes. Not once I'm further down the road. I think in the beginning I do. I might start, I go, oh, this idea is cool, or this riff or melody is cool. And then that anxiety about, well, if this isn't the greatest song ever made, I'm a piece of shit, sets in. And I think that is the part where I struggle with in the beginning. And I think once I understand the scope of the song and kind of see where it's going, I feel fine about it. And I'm pretty good with policing myself for it to be done, or for it not to be overproduced, or to have the vibe I want. But for me, it's the beginning of that. Blank canvas is scary, and you go, well, it could be anything. And that kind of limitless possibilities can be kind of soul crushing.
What's the weirdest, most useless piece of gear that you own but can't get rid of?
Electric kazoo. It's called a kazooka.
Okay,
Don't judge me.
I have to
Whatever.
ask. I have to ask. What's a kazooka?
It's an electric kazoo. You fucking plug it into an amp, you can rock out with a kazoo.
I hope that BGR doesn't review this at some
Maybe
point.
I will.
Okay. Is there a holy grail piece of gear that you've been hunting for?
Small sound, big sound, no memory. It's a delay. There are only 50 of them.
Have you found the perfect piece of gear?
If I never got another piece of gear, I could live the rest of my life fine with what I have.
Only play it through solid state amps forever or use a single coil pickup forever?
Solid state amps.
Have unlimited free pedals but it can only use modeling amps, or a dream tube amp with no pedals at all?
Modeling amps and pedals.
Only use boutique pedals that no one has ever heard of, or only use Boss or MXR classics?
Boutique pedals. Shout out to Boss and MXR though.
Lose the ability to use delay or lose the ability to use a fuzz?
Fuzz. There's distortion and overdrive. I'm fine.
Grahm, you're the architect of Mount Rushmore. You have 4 spots in Mount Rushmore. People, places, or thing. What would they be in what order?
Gear related?
Anything.
Anything? Well,
Ideas, whatever.
If we're saying that, I would return it to its original state because it was holy ground for Native Americans. That would be my actual answer. But they'd probably all be concepts or ideas, and it would be 4, right? Honesty, self-analysis, manners, and passion.
If you can go back to when you first started making music and content, what's one thing you do differently?
Better lighting, and I'm pretty happy with the trajectory of the channel where I started. I watched the first video I made a few weeks ago, and while it's rough in some areas, like I like it. It's yeah. I think I'm happy with it, but better lighting for sure.
Better lighting. What would you suggest to anybody wanting to start a new channel?
Do it. Fuck it. Like, don't worry about if it's going to be successful or even well received, or even if anybody's going to see it. One person might see it, and that might really improve that person's day, or it might inspire them to do something. Yeah, if you want to start a channel, just fucking go for it. And above all, like, have good sound. The visuals matter, but the sound is most important. So if you're going to invest in something, start there, and then just have a great time. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing, and yeah, just fucking do it.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received about making music or content creation?
When I was a kid, my 2 best friends growing up, we all learned how to play guitar at the same time. So the 2 brothers. The older brother started playing like 1 or 2 years before me, and then the younger brother started playing bass maybe 6 months before, and then I started playing guitar. We would play every day. We were with each other every day. Their dad, who was kind of like my dad growing up, was in a band in the 70s. And so he would hear us, and he'd come in, and we'd like, the 3 of us, we're getting in fist fights over fucking songs. Like, we'd beat the shit out of each other for nothing. And some of that was due to, like, somebody would have an idea. Oh, what if we did this? And we'd be like, no, fuck you. You suck. And it was so brutal. And then one day, Tom, their dad, he came in and he was like, hey, idiots, when somebody has an idea, it costs you nothing to try it. It might be great. It might not. And then trying it might send you in a better direction later. So whatever the idea is, just try it. I think that's not just for music, but for anything. It costs you nothing to just see what it is. And what he was teaching us, I don't know if he knew he was teaching us or me this, was that your version of what you think it's supposed to be might not be right. So try something else. I think that's like incredibly important.
You have any upcoming projects or releases?
Boring gear reviews for right now. I do have like a record written for Grey House, the skeleton of it. When I'll get around to that, I don't know. But so right now, yeah, just follow me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Boring Gear Reviews.
Okay, well, that kind of answered both of them right there. Graham Baker, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. You're a really unique dude. Glad I came to meet you.
Ken, this was so cool. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.